Archaeologists opened a sealed jar inside a 3,000-year-old Egyptian tomb and found honey that was still perfectly edible. That is not a metaphor. That is the chemistry: salt, honey, white rice, vinegar, dried beans, pure sugar. The global food industry stamps expiration dates on everything, including things that do not expire, because they are legally required to, or because you, replacing the product, makes them money. This list is the 50 foods that laugh at expiration dates. Storage instructions included. Every mechanism explained. 1. Raw honey. The pH sits between 3.2 and 4.5. Acidic enough that bacteria cannot survive inside it. The water content is below 18%. Low enough that microorganisms have nothing to grow in. The bees add an enzyme that produces trace amounts of hydrogen peroxide as a final antimicrobial layer. The result is a food that does not spoil. 3,000-year-old honey found in Tutankhamun's burial chamber in 1922 was edible. The mechanism has not changed. Store it sealed at room temperature, away from moisture. It will outlive everything else in your pantry. If it crystallizes, lower the sealed jar into warm water for 10 minutes. The honey is fine. The jar just got cold. 2. Salt. Sodium chloride is a mineral extracted from the earth. It does not decompose. It does not oxidize. It does not support microbial growth, which is exactly why humans have used it to preserve other foods for 6,000 years. The one exception: iodized salt. The iodine additive degrades over time, and Morton Salt's own documentation puts the quality window at 5 years for iodized versions. Non-iodized sea salt, rock salt, and kosher salt last indefinitely. Store in a sealed container away from moisture. That is the entire requirement. 3. White rice. A Brigham Young University study sampled polished white rice stored between 1 and 30 years and confirmed that both nutritional content and flavor held through the full 30-year window. Utah State University Extension puts the confirmed shelf life at up to 30 years in oxygen-free sealed containers. Brown rice fails this test. Its oil content causes it to go rancid within 2 to 5 years. White rice, jasmine, basmati, arborio, and wild rice all have low enough oil content to last indefinitely under proper conditions. The method: Mylar bags rated at 5 mil thickness, 300 cubic centimeters of oxygen absorbers per 1 gallon bag, heat sealed and stored below 59 degrees Fahrenheit. That is how families on every continent are building 30-year food security for the price of a restaurant meal per pound. 4. White granulated sugar. Utah State University. Extension confirmed indefinite shelf life for granulated sugars due to their resistance to microbial growth. The best buy date printed on retail bags, typically 2 years, exists because the sugar may clump or harden. It does not go bad. It does not become unsafe. Brown sugar behaves similarly because both sugar and molasses resist microbial activity. Raw sugar has a shorter window due to residual moisture. Store plain white sugar in an airtight, opaque container away from moisture and heat. Indefinite. 5. Pure white vinegar. The Vinegar Institute, the industry's own certification body, classifies the shelf life of distilled white vinegar as almost indefinite. The mechanism is simple. Acidity at a pH of around 2.4 makes vinegar self-preserving. Nothing can grow in it. Apple cider vinegar, balsamic, red wine vinegar, and rice vinegar share the same property with slight variations. You may notice a cloudy strand develop over time. That is the mother of vinegar, a non-toxic byproduct of the bacteria that created it. It is harmless and does not indicate spoilage. Store in its original glass bottle in a cool, dark place. It will be there in 20 years. 6. Cornstarch. Starch is chemically inert in dry form. It does not oxidize. It does not provide a medium for bacterial growth. The only way cornstarch goes wrong is if moisture reaches it, at which point it begins to dissolve. In a sealed container in a cool, dry location, cornstarch lasts indefinitely. The practical risk is flavor absorption. Powdered ingredients pull scent from the surrounding air, so keep it away from strongly aromatic items. Original packaging works if sealed. Glass jars are better for decades-long storage. 7. Dried beans. Black beans, kidney beans, chickpeas, lentils, navy beans, pinto beans, all of them last indefinitely in sealed storage. The quality note that matters: beans older than 8 to 10 years may require longer soaking times and still come out with tougher texture, but they remain safe and nutritionally intact. Sealed in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, dried beans hit 30-plus year shelf lives. They are one of the most calorie-dense, protein-rich foods available at emergency storage prices. 1 pound of dried beans costs roughly $1 in markets from São Paulo to Warsaw to Lagos. That pound contains roughly 1,600 calories and 53 grams of protein. This is the math preppers have known for decades. 8. Dried oats. Rolled oats stored in sealed containers with oxygen absorbers. Confirmed at 30-year shelf life by multiple university-level food science programs. Oats are high in fiber, contain manganese, phosphorus, and B vitamins, and cook in minutes. The key distinction: store-bought oat containers expose the product to oxygen every time the lid opens, dropping quality within 2 years. Sealed in oxygen-free mylar with 300 cubic centimeter absorbers, that same oat becomes a 30-year food security asset. 9. Hard liquor. Vodka, whiskey, rum, tequila, and gin stored in unopened bottles last indefinitely. The alcohol concentration, typically 40% or above, creates an environment where bacteria and yeast cannot function. This is also why pure vanilla extract, which is alcohol-based, lasts indefinitely despite having a best-by date on the label. The qualifier here is unopened. Once a bottle of spirits is opened and repeatedly exposed to air, oxidation begins to shift flavor over months to years, though the product remains safe. Unopened, indefinite, sealed in a cool, dark place. 10. Pure maple syrup. The Massachusetts Maple Producers Association confirmed unopened pure maple syrup lasts forever. Utah State University's Guide to Food Storage for Emergencies lists it alongside honey and granulated sugars as having indefinite shelf life due to resistance to microbial growth. If mold appears on the surface of opened syrup, the association's documented guidance is simple. Bring it to a slight boil, skim the surface, transfer to a clean container, and refrigerate. The product is safe. Store unopened in a cool, dark place. Once opened, refrigerate. 11. Soy sauce. Salt concentration so high that microbial activity is chemically suppressed. An unopened bottle of soy sauce lasts indefinitely. Once opened and refrigerated, quality holds for 2 to 3 years. The mechanism is the same as salt itself. The sodium content eliminates the possibility of bacterial growth. Every kitchen from Sao Paulo to Tokyo to Berlin keeps a bottle of this. It does not expire. 12. Pure vanilla extract. Produced by macerating vanilla beans in alcohol, the alcohol content preserves it indefinitely, and the flavor actually deepens and improves over time. The best by date on commercial bottles is a legal requirement, not a chemical reality. Store in a cool, dark cabinet. It will be better in 10 years than it is today. 13. Worcestershire sauce. The fermentation plus vinegar combination gives Worcestershire the same self-preserving chemistry as vinegar with additional salt and acid layers from tamarind. Unopened bottles last indefinitely. Open bottles maintain quality for 3 to 5 years. 14. Hard winter wheat berries. Sealed in oxygen-free containers, hard red or hard white wheat berries store for 25 to 30 years with documented nutritional retention. The distinction from flour is critical. Wheat flour goes rancid in 6 to 12 months because the milling process exposes the oils in the germ. Whole berries keep the germ sealed until you grind them. A hand-cranked grain mill in a stock of whole wheat berries is one of the most complete long-term food security investments available globally. 15. Cornmeal. Properly sealed in airtight containers away from heat and moisture, white or yellow degerminated cornmeal lasts indefinitely. Whole grain cornmeal contains the germ and goes rancid faster, within 1 to 2 years. The degerminated variety removes the oil-containing component, eliminating the mechanism of spoilage. 16. Pasta. White pasta, the refined semolina durum wheat variety, has the same chemical logic as white rice. Low oil content, low moisture, and no mechanism for spoilage when kept dry and sealed. Sealed with oxygen absorbers in mylar, dried pasta holds quality for 25 to 30 years. If you are buying pasta for a stockpile, it is the same shelf-stable logic as white rice, and it is sold in every supermarket from Argentina to Germany to the United States. 17. Dried lentils. Green, red, and brown lentils require no soaking, cook in 20 minutes, and provide 18 grams of protein per cooked cup. They last indefinitely in sealed storage. Compared to dried beans, lentils are the faster emergency food. No overnight soaking required. Stock them alongside beans and rotate nothing. 18. Baking soda. Sodium bicarbonate does not expire. It can lose its leavening effectiveness over time. Mix a quarter teaspoon with 2 teaspoons of white vinegar. If it bubbles, it works. But it remains chemically safe indefinitely, and its non-food uses extend far beyond cooking. Deodorizer, mild abrasive cleaner, antacid, fire suppressant for small grease fires. It belongs in a long-term pantry twice over. 19. Baking powder. Different from baking soda. It contains cream of tartar and cornstarch along with sodium bicarbonate, and its leavening capability degrades faster than pure baking soda. However, it remains safe to consume indefinitely. The practical storage recommendation for active leavening is replacement every 1 to 2 years. For pure safety, as a stockpile item, it does not expire. 20. Popcorn kernels. Not the microwave bags. The loose kernels, the same product used by humans for at least 5,000 years, last indefinitely when sealed away from moisture. The practical issue with very old kernels is moisture loss over time, which reduces pop rate. At 70% moisture or above inside the kernel, popping is near perfect. Below that, duds increase. This is a texture and yield issue, not a food safety issue. Kernels that have been stored for years are still safe to consume. 21. Instant coffee. Freeze-dried instant coffee, sealed in its original airtight container, holds quality for up to 20 years. Nescafé, the most globally distributed coffee brand in the world, sold in 180 countries, is a freeze-dried product. The freeze-drying process removes approximately 98% of moisture. At that level, microbial activity is impossible. Flavor degrades over time, but safety does not. If coffee is a baseline comfort item for your household, instant coffee is the correct long-term stockpile choice. 22. Freeze-dried foods generally. The commercial freeze-drying process removes 90 to 98% of moisture while preserving cellular structure and most nutrients. Products sealed in Toller's 10 cans with oxygen absorbers carry verified shelf lives of 25 to 30 years from manufacturers including Mountain House, Augustin Farms, and ReadyWise, all three of which sell globally. Freeze-dried meat, vegetables, fruit, and full meals fall into this category. The cost premium over dried staples is real, roughly 5 to 8 times higher per calorie, but the flavor and nutrition retention at the 25-year mark is documented and confirmed. 23, dried pasta, 24, dried corn, 25, millet, all three follow the same mechanism: low oil content, low moisture, no biological activity, and dry, sealed conditions. Millet, in particular, is one of the most globally consumed grains outside of Western markets. It is a staple crop in India, sub-Saharan Africa, and parts of China, storing indefinitely in sealed conditions and providing a complete amino acid profile with B vitamins and magnesium. 26. Quinoa. Technically a seed, not a grain, quinoa's protein profile contains all 9 essential amino acids. Stored sealed with oxygen absorbers, it lasts 3 to 5 years at peak quality and indefinitely for safety. It is sold in supermarkets across North America, South America, and Europe. 27. Dried chickpeas. 28. Dried black-eyed peas. 29. Dried navy beans. 30. Dried split peas. Each of these follows the same chemistry as lentils and whole dried beans, indefinite shelf life and sealed, oxygen-free storage with protein content between 15 and 21 grams per cooked cup. Together, these 5 legumes give a stockpile more protein diversity than most people's daily diet. 31. Non-iodized sea salt. Reiterating the distinction from item 2, non-iodized salt specifically has no chemical mechanism for degradation. It is a mineral. Store in glass or ceramic containers to prevent moisture absorption, and it will serve its purpose in 50 years as effectively as today. 32. Sorghum. A grain largely unknown in Western markets but consumed by over 500 million people across Africa and Asia. It is drought-resistant, gluten-free, high in antioxidants, and stores indefinitely in sealed conditions. If global supply chains ever break down, sorghum is what sustains the largest portion of humanity. It belongs in a serious stockpile. 33. Dried spices. Ground spices do not expire in the sense of becoming unsafe. They lose potency. Volatile aromatic compounds called terpenes evaporate over 12 to 36 months after opening. Whole spices, peppercorns, coriander seeds, cinnamon sticks, cloves, retain potency up to 4 years, and grind fresh when needed. Sealed whole spices are the better long-term stockpile investment. No medical authority has ever identified a health risk from consuming old spices. They simply taste of less. 34. Dried herbs. Rosemary, thyme, oregano, bay leaves, basil. The same terpene loss mechanism applies. Flavor degrades after 12 to 24 months of opening, but safety remains intact. In a sealed stockpile container, dried herbs store for years with gradual but manageable potency loss. 35. Dark chocolate. Of all chocolate varieties, dark chocolate, 70% cacao or higher, has the longest shelf life due to low milk solid content and high cocoa butter stability. Properly stored at room temperature in its original packaging, dark chocolate holds quality for 2 years and safety for significantly longer. Milk and white chocolate contain higher dairy content and oxidize faster. This is the psychological survival item, the morale food. Every serious emergency pantry expert includes it. 36. Pure cocoa powder. Unsweetened cocoa powder lasts indefinitely when sealed in a dry, cool location. The processing removes most of the volatile compounds that cause other chocolate products to degrade. Dutch process and natural cocoa both qualify. This is the base ingredient for any chocolate preparation, and it takes up almost no space. 37. Powdered milk. Full-fat powdered milk lasts 2 to 10 years depending on packaging. Non-fat powdered milk, the variety with fat removed, lasts 25 years in sealed Marmor 10 cans with oxygen absorbers, confirmed by multiple emergency food manufacturers. The fat in full-fat versions eventually oxidizes and goes rancid. without the fat. The mechanism for spoilage is eliminated, non-fat only for long-term storage. 38. Powdered eggs. Freeze-dried and dehydrated whole egg powder sealed in fetching iron's 10 cans holds up to 25 to 30 years. It reconstitutes with water for baking, scrambling, or any egg application. This is the most complete protein source available in a sealed emergency format. 8 grams of complete protein per serving with all essential amino acids. 39. Hard candy. Wrapped hard candy made from cooked sugar syrup has an indefinite shelf life by the same mechanism as granulated sugar. It absorbs moisture over time and becomes sticky, but the safety window is indefinite. It is calorie-dense, lightweight, and serves as both a psychological comfort and an energy source. 40. Corn syrup. The same self-preserving properties as sugar, high sugar concentration inhibits all microbial activity. Both light and dark corn syrup last indefinitely in their sealed bottles. Dark corn syrup contains molasses, which is itself a byproduct of sugar refining, with the same antimicrobial properties. 41. White wine vinegar. 42. Apple cider vinegar. 43. Balsamic vinegar. 44. Rice vinegar. All 4 follow the same Vinegar Institute standard, almost indefinite shelf life due to self-preserving acidity. Balsamic's grape solids may develop sediment over time, entirely harmless. Rice vinegar unseasoned is the only variety in this category with indefinite documented shelf life. Seasoned rice vinegar contains added ingredients that can shift over time. 45. Rolled oats, already addressed but worth naming separately as a global staple. Oats are the grain that feeds the most people per calorie across Northern Europe, North America, and increasingly South America. Quaker, the most recognized oat brand globally, sells in over 100 countries. The product inside the canister, properly transferred to mylar with oxygen absorbers, outlasts the company itself. 46. Pemmican. The original emergency food, engineered by indigenous peoples of North America, centuries before modern food science had a vocabulary for what they were doing. Rendered fat mixed with dried lean meat and dried berries pressed into blocks. Historical records document pemmican remaining edible after decades of storage. Modern versions, made correctly, rendered tallow or lard combined with jerky powder and dried fruit, replicate the original chemistry. Highest calorie-to-weight ratio of any food that can be made from scratch and stored indefinitely. 48. Ghee. Clarified butter from which all milk solids and water have been removed. The removal of water eliminates the primary mechanism for spoilage in standard butter, bacterial growth in the moisture. Sealed ghee at room temperature lasts 1 to 2 years. In a cool environment below 60 degrees Fahrenheit, the shelf life extends to 3 to 5 years. This is the fat source that holds longest without refrigeration, sold in Indian, Middle Eastern, and specialty food markets on every continent. 49. Coconut oil. Refined only, not virgin. The high saturated fat content of refined coconut oil makes it the most oxidation-resistant plant-based cooking fat available. Shelf life, 2 to 5 years at room temperature in sealed containers. Not indefinite, but the longest shelf life in the oil category. It is also an antimicrobial agent and a fire accelerant in survival situations. 50. The most underestimated item on this list. Pure distilled water does not expire. The molecule H2O does not degrade. What changes in stored water is the container. Plastic bottles leach compounds over time, and unsealed containers allow contamination. Water stored in food-grade glass or stainless steel, sealed, lasts indefinitely. FEMA's emergency preparedness recommendation is 1 gallon per person per day as a minimum. Most households hold less than 24 hours of drinking water without running municipal infrastructure. That is not an inconvenience. That is a 3-day storm away from a crisis. Every food on this list requires water to prepare. Store the water first. The expiration dates on every item on this list exist for one of 2 reasons. The manufacturer is legally required to print a date, or the date encourages you to replace the product sooner than necessary. Honey does not need a best-by date. White rice does not need a best-by date. Salt does not need a best-by date. The chemistry is not ambiguous. The research has been done, the mechanisms are documented, and the 3,000-year-old jar sitting in a Cairo museum is the only expiration date that matters. The food industry sells replacement units. You are under no obligation to need them.